Hi, this is Arango, and today I would like to show you how to make a quick city inside of Blender 2.77. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with left click. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe programs or other 3D programs. Okay, while you're in here, go to add-ons. Make sure you have a check mark right here next to 3D : 3D navigation. Scroll down. Make sure you have a check mark next to Mesh F2, Mesh Inset Polygons, Mesh Loop Tools, Mesh Relax, and then scroll all the way down and make sure you have a check mark next to User Interface : Pi Menus Official. Okay, when you first come into Blender, you come into Blender in object mode. You can manipulate your view by holding the middle mouse button. If you put a check mark next to that navigation tab that was at the top of the add-ons list in the user preferences, you can click right here. And when you did that, that will give you the option to have this navigation tab right here. You can use all of these buttons to easily navigate your view. Okay, Blender's default renderer is called the Blender renderer. This largely has to do with how Blender deals with light. What I want you to do is to click here and then go to cycles. Basically what the cycles renderer is it makes light look very realistic. Okay, and what I'm going to do is click here and turn on my GPU. I believe if you have an NVIDIA processor, I think it's a 600 series or better, you can turn on the GPU, your graphic processing unit, to help Blender do its calculations. And I believe it's also possible to do it with an AMD video card. I'm not sure which one though. Okay, this tutorial is a partial update of another tutorial. I learned how to do some new stuff as far as a method I had made up a while ago that I thought was really cool. I'm actually excited to show you guys this. Basically, suppose you're working with some characters, mechs, ships, whatever you need. You need a quick city environment, right? I came up with this method. Okay, first thing we're going to do is with this cube selected, we're going to press X to bring up our delete menu. We're then going to delete the cube. We're then going to press Shift A, which brings up our Add To menu. Then we're going to select a plane. We're then going to, you can either click here and go to edit mode, or I'm going to press tab and then go to edit mode this way. I'm then going to press S to scale. I'm going to roll my mouse with a zoom back. I'm going to press S to scale again. And I'm just scaling up to about the size of that grid right there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the W key. This brings up our specials menu. I'm then going to choose subdivide. If you look immediately over to your left, you'll see a menu for the subdivide where it says number of cuts. I want to take this all the way up to 10. You should as well. And then with this at 10, what we're going to do now is press W to bring up the specials menu again, and then choose subdivide yet again. Okay, what you're going to do now is go to face select. You're going to grab a vertice that's somewhere around the center of this. You're going to press the O button. This turns on something called the proportional editing tool. The proportional editing tool allows you to manipulate more than one vertice, edge, or face at one time. You can also select a vertice, edge, or face right here as well. And when you see this blue dot, as a matter of fact, or blue circle, this lets you know that the proportional editing tool is on. Okay, I can see Blender's grid floor right here, which is a little distracting to me. So I'm going to press N to bring up our properties panel. I'm going to scroll down to where I see display. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click here to take away that check mark next to the grid floor there. I'm then going to press N to take away our properties panel. Okay, with this face selected and with our proportional editing tool on, what we want to do is press G. The reason why we press G is so we can move that face up. However, it's also so we can see that circle there, which is the area of influence of the proportional editing tool. So now that you press G, you're going to press Z. See that line going up? That's showing us how we're going to move. And you want to do that so you don't we basically what we're doing now is we are trying to change the angle of our squares. See how everything is very even and checkerboard like? We don't want that. However, we also don't want our squares to be curved. We want our squares to be squarish, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna move my mouse up, then I'm gonna roll the mouse wheel, middle mouse wheel, to change the area of influence. Then the more you change the area of influence, kind of the better, not too much. I'm gonna left click right there. The reason why we did this is see how everything is even like this, right? We don't want that. We want some squares to be left even like this, but not all of them. And there's a thing that I found out a while ago, a technique, I should say, a while ago. I'm going to show it to you now. So I'm going to press A to deselect there, press A to select everything. I'm going to make sure I'm on face select, which I am. I am actually going to press O to turn off proportional editing tool, the proportional editing tool now. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. However, we're not going to delete anything. What we're going to do is select limited dissolve. And you see when I click that limited dissolve, what happened is the limited dissolve took away some of the faces. However, it acted in accordance with the changed angles. So if I hold the middle mouse button now, you can see we have squares here. But look at all of this, these faces that we have here, how they're not squares anymore. And that's what we want. Now, I like the setting of 5 for this max angle. You can take this down or take this up and see if you like the pattern that comes up better. Once you see the rest of this tutorial or, get the gist of it or whatever. These edges right here, you can either leave them square like this, or if you click this all boundaries button, then these areas here kind of become irregular, which I actually kind of like. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I am then going to press S to scale on the Z axis 0 and then left click to lock in. So when we press S to scale on the Z axis 0, that just flattened this area out, which is what we wanted. Now what we're going to do is press A to deselect. We're going to make sure we're on face select now. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Then I'm going to press C for paint select. So C for paint select allows us to paint faces. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to act like we are selecting city blocks or city buildings. So right here, think of this as being buildings as well as sidewalks. I'm rolling my mouse wheel to shrink down my area of influence for my paint select. And basically what you want to do is grab, more kind of square like these are a little bit more distorted than I want, so I'll leave them. I'll grab here. If you grab something you don't want, you can hold the middle mouse button and deselect it. I'm going to shrink the area of influence by rolling the mouse wheel there. I want this as a building. I want these as buildings here. I'll take this and that. You want to have some spaces. I'll take this as a building, this is a building, and hopefully you'll understand more a little bit later. Okay, and for now, this is a general area where I am going to, where I plan to have my buildings come out of. So I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, the goal of this tutorial is to show you how to make a quick city, or at least fairly quick city. So we want to make texturing easy for ourselves. So eventually most of this will be, or a lot of it will be road. So what we want to do is set things up so we can just grab all of the material that isn't buildings easily. So to do that, what we're going to do is with this geometry selected here, we're going to press and hold shift, then press D. I'm then going to right click to make sure that I didn't do any major movements as far as that geometry, because for the most part we want that geometry to sit flat right on this other geometry. Now what we did there when we pressed Shift D was we actually duplicated this geometry and put this geometry on top of the geometry that was underneath of it. And that's just going to make things easier for us as far as texturing, like I had mentioned before. Okay, now with this geometry selected, what we're going to do now is press E to extrude. Then I'm going to right click to not make any major movements. Then I'm going to pull up just slightly. About like that. And what this is this is the concrete area that our buildings will be actually sitting on right there. Okay, now with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to change our pivot point from the median point, which is Blender's default pivot point, to individual origins. We're then going to do a special kind of extrude as well. We're going to hold Alt, then press E. And this brings up our extrude menu. We're then going to choose individual faces. So I'm going to left click. Then I'm going to right click so I don't do any major movements. Now what I'm going to do with that done is I'm going to press S to scale in like this. Then I'm going to left click to lock in. Okay, and with this geometry here selected, for the sake of us being able to texture easily, what we're going to do is press and hold Shift, then press D, and then left click to lock in. Okay, the reason why we did that was we wanted this geometry to be separate from this geometry here. And from that geometry being separate, it will allow you to select the different pieces of geometry as we move forward in the tutorial, which will enable you to speed up the process of making this city. Okay, with this geometry selected, we're going to press E to extrude, left click to lock in. You want to pull up, think about this as being your first floor for your buildings. You're then going to press E to extrude again, left click to lock that in. You're going to think about this as being the first level of height for your buildings. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold our mouse or hover our mouse right here, hold the middle mouse button, pull to the side. We're going to go to what looks like this triangle. We're going to click here. I'm going to hover my mouse here, pull this out to the side. I'm going to look to where it says vertex groups. I'm going to click here. That made a new vertex group. I'm going to double click here. We're going to name this roof underscore tops. Then I'm going to press enter to lock that in. Okay, and with this geometry here still selected, I'm going to click assign so that those faces are assigned to this vertex group that we named rooftops. Okay, and what we're going to do now is press C for paint select, and we're going to deselect some of the buildings that we don't want to be taller. So I'm just pushing my middle mouse button to deselect those buildings. Then I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to pull up to make these buildings taller. Okay, what you're going to do now is press C for paint select. Then we're going to deselect some of the buildings that we don't want to be taller. Then I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, then we're going to take our manipulator and make these other ones just a little bit taller. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to press select. So we grab all of the rooftops for all of our buildings. We're then going to press and hold Control, then press L to grab all of the geometry connected to those rooftops. We're then going to press H to hide that geometry. Okay, now what you want to do is make sure you have face select on. You're going to hover over this geometry here. You're then going to press L. We're then going to go to vertex groups, click this plus button, double click where the new group popped up. We're going to name this ground and then press enter. And then with that geometry selected, we need to remember to select assign so that this geometry is assigned to this vertex group that we just named ground. Okay, now with this geometry selected, what you want to do is press H to hide that geometry. Now we're going to press A to select all of the remaining geometry, and then we're going to click this plus button again. We're going to double click right here, and then we're going to name this foundation. Then I'm going to press enter to lock that in. I'm then going to click assign so that this geometry is assigned with the vertex group that we just named foundation. Okay, now with those vertex groups assigned, we're going to press and hold Alt, then press H to bring back all of the geometry. I just pressed A to deselect the geometry. We're now going to select rooftops, the vertex groups, then we're going to, or the vertex group named rooftops. We're then going to click select to select all of the roofs of that vertex group. We're then going to press H to hide that geometry. And the reason why we did that was when you hide geometry in Blender, it's typically not affected by what you do while that geometry is hidden. So that geometry, by being hidden, it's kind of like a way of protecting it from whatever actions that you're currently doing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click ground and then select that, then press H. We're then going to click foundation and then select and then click H to hide that geometry as well. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold the mouse button and turn to the side. We're going to make sure we have face select on. I'm going to hold Alt. Then I'm going to select these loop of faces right here. Okay, with that loop of faces selected, what I'm going to do now is press and hold Shift, then press G. And this brings up our select similar menu. I'm then going to go to area and select area. Okay, now when we selected, when we press Shift G and then that select similar menu popped up and we selected area, similar areas to what we had selected were selected, which is good because what that allows us to do is to then press the W key and then select subdivide. And we can see all of the faces that we had selected are subdivided. We're going to click one more time to have them subdivide again. Okay, with our faces still selected and with our subdivisions, what we're going to do now is we're going to press and hold Alt, then press E. This brings up our extrude menu. We're then going to choose individual faces. I'm then going to right click so we don't do any major movements. We also still have our pivot point set for individual origins. So with that done, what we can do now is press S to scale. And then we're going to scale this down. And basically what we are doing right now that I think is extremely cool, I'm going to left click to lock in. Basically, we just made a whole lot of windows all at the same time. Now, obviously the effect isn't perfect. However, the point of this tutorial was to make a quick city. And one of the things that, you tend to find in cities is buildings and buildings that have a lot of windows on them. So, yeah, just I think very cool. So what's also cool is since we just made these windows, what we can do is click here, make another vertex group, double click here, and then we'll name this Windows, then press enter to lock that in, and then we'll click assign. So now we have the ability to grab each of these windows whenever we want. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to press H to hide those windows. We're then going to click here, which is our materials tab. We're going to click new. And then this is our basic color for our buildings here. We're going to click here and we're going to push this a little bit towards the blue area. Make it darker. Actually, kind of bluish gray. And basically what should happen is these buildings will all be this color right here, right now. And what we're going to do now is we are going to press and hold Alt, then press H to bring back the rest of our geometry. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now what we're going to do is start assigning colors. So we're going to hover our mouse right here. I'm going to left click and drag. This will split our view. I'm then going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to press T to take away that menu. Then I'm going to press N. Okay, there's the properties panel menu. So I'm going to press N to take that away. And what we're going to do is we are going to click here and change this pivot point from individual origins back to the default pivot point, which is the median point. Okay, now we're going to click here and then go to object mode. I'm going to zoom back, and we're going to use this at kind of like a preview window to see our colors. I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to right click right here. I'm going to press and hold shift, then press A to bring up our add to menu. I'm then going to select plane. I'm then going to press S to scale. I'm going to press S to scale again, then S to scale again. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I'll push this down just a little. And with this plane selected here, which is a separate object from here, we're going to click new, and we're currently on our materials panel. Okay, and what that did was that put a diffuse material on this plane right here. However, we want this plane to light our city. One of the ways in Cycles that is a quick way to get light is to take a plane and have it actually emit light out of it. Okay, and I can see we have the default light right here. So I'm going to click here in the outliner, which also allows us to select objects. I'm then going to right click here and then select delete to get rid of that default light. Okay, now I'm going to reselect the plane. I'm going to click where it says diffuse, and then I'm going to click where it says emission, and what that did was now this plane will emit light out of it. So what I'm going to do now is hover my mouse right here. I'm going to hold shift and then press Z, and this gives us a render view of our city here. For our light, for the light that's coming out of it, since we put this emission on it, this is our strength. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to turn this up to 2. I'm going to press enter to lock that in. I'm then going to push this down a little. Then I'm going to press S to scale to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, now you see here we have a preview window to work with. What I want to do, since we're still in object mode, is click on our city. I'm going to press and hold shift, then press D. Pull to the side just so I know that I have this duplicated. I'm going to right click to get that to jump right back. I'm going to hover my mouse right here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to pull to the side so I can see this right here. And what this represents is layers. So I have the duplicate of our city. What I'm going to do with it selected is I'm going to press M, and then I'm going to click right here just to move the duplicate of the city to a second layer, so that if we make some changes here that we would like to easily go back to, we can always go to our duplicate of the city that we're currently working on. Even if we like what we do to our city, we still have a nice base to go back to try out alternate things as well from having that duplicate. So I'm going to click on here. I'm then going to press shift and hold shift, and while holding shift, press B. I'm then going to draw a zoom box to zoom in right here. We're currently in object mode. We want to click here with the city selected and then go to edit mode. Okay, and since we have our vertex group set up, we can easily select things to assign textures to them. So we're going to click the ground right here. We're then going to go to select. We're then going to go to our material tab. We'll click the plus button to get a new material. We'll click new. I'm going to make this a dark gray kind of color, and then we'll just select assign, and then you can see the change took place right over here. Okay, what we'll do now is press A to deselect. We'll go back to our vertex groups. We'll go to foundation. We'll click select. We'll go back to our materials button. We'll click this plus button right here. Then we'll select new to make a new material, and then we can see the new material right here. Then we'll click assign. Okay, what we'll do now is press A to deselect. We'll go to our vertex groups again. We'll click on Windows, then we'll click Select. We'll then go back to our Materials button. We'll then click the plus button here, then click New to make a new material. Okay, what we're going to do now is click on where it says Diffuse. We're then going to select Mix Shader. We're then going to go to the first shader here. We're going to click here. We're then going to turn this to Glossy. And then where it says GGX, we're going to click here and change this to Sharp. We're then going to go to the second shader, and then we're going to select Glossy again. Okay, and then with all of those options set up, we can then click Assign. And then when you look here, you can see all of our windows set up. Okay, with those windows still selected, we're going to press H to temporarily hide them. Okay, then we'll go to our vertex groups. We'll select Foundation, click Select, hover our mouse over this 3D viewport, and that's important, I should mention, because where your 3D mouse is hovering over affects your keyboard shortcuts. So anyway, with that Foundation vertex group currently selected, we'll press H to hide our foundation. Then we'll go and select Ground, and then click Select. Then we'll hover over this 3D viewport again, then press H to hide the ground. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. And we have Face Select on, so I'm going to press C for Paint Select. And I'm just going to select some of the buildings that I would like to remain blue. When I say some of, I mean a part of the building. Okay, and with the pieces of the building selected, I'm going to right click to get out of Paint Select. Then I'm going to hold Control, then press L. And what that does is if you have a part of an object selected, and when I say object, I mean inside of an object, because technically the whole city is an object. So I mean the objects that are inside the city object. If you have part of an object selected, and then you press Control L, you select that entire object. So with that done, we're going to press H to hide those buildings. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. With Face Select on, I'm going to press C for Paint Select. Select some of the buildings here, select here, here. Then we're going to right click to get out of Paint Select. I'm going to then press Control L. Okay, so what we're going to do now is click Materials, click the plus button here, New here, and then choose the color here. Make this a little bit darker. Then we'll select Assign. Okay, now we'll press H to hide those buildings that we just applied that color to. Now what we'll do is press A to select all of the buildings left over. Okay, what we're going to do now is click the plus button and then New. Then we'll click here. Click I'm trying to think of like brick. At least along the lines of brick. Then we'll click Assign. Okay, and that was just to get some, color variance to the building. So I'm going to press and hold Alt, then press H to unhide everything. I'm then going to press A to deselect all of that geometry. Okay, when you look here, you can see unnecessary geometry. So what we can do is click here, make sure ground is selected, and then click Select. Then we can press X to bring up our Delete menu, and then choose Limited Dissolve to get rid of that unnecessary geometry. And you can see if you look here, you really can't tell a difference that you took away all that, what I would say is unnecessary geometry. Okay, now what we'll do is press A to deselect there. Now we'll go to Foundation, click select, hover our mouse over this 3D viewport. If you didn't realize that, you should have did that for the last part as well, because it's important where your 3D cursor's at as far as your shortcut keys. Should have told you that when I said the other thing. Anyway, with the foundation selected, we're going to press X to bring up our delete menu. We're then going to choose limited dissolve. And now that unnecessary geometry was taken away. And again, you really can't tell the difference as far as I can see right here. Okay, now I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, and you basically want to take this piece of city and make it your own. You can put in trees, you could put in light post, you can put cars in here, you can put people in here. However, when you do those things, you want to do them in this object that is this piece of this city. Okay, so all we're going to do now is click here, go to object mode. We are going to click our modifier panel. We're going to click here. We're going to click array. We're going to take this count up to 10, then press enter. We're then going to press copy to copy the array modifier. We're then going to scroll down. We're going to click here and change this to 0. We're then going to click here and then press 1, then press enter. Okay, now when we did that, basically now we have a massive city. If you look at the triangles here, you can see that we have 1,221,802 triangles using both of these array modifiers here, or instances, whatever you would put. By having that array modifier, look at that number again, right? So we have a massive city here. The array modifier actually does a very good job. However, we can do better. Look at the number again, right? So what I'm going to do is click this X here, then click this X here to take all of the instances of the array modifier off. So now we're back to this. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen this before. I might have saw it and didn't notice it at the time, but see our triangles here? 12,000, right? Now, it was just 1,000,000. Check this out. I'm going to hold Control, then hold the middle mouse button to zoom back. Okay, with this selected, I'm going to press Shift S. That brought up our snap menu. I'm going to choose Cursor to Selected. I'm then going to press Shift A to bring up our Add menu. I'm then going to, or I call it the Add To menu. I'm going to go to Mesh. I'm then going to go up to Plane, right? I'm going to pull this plane out some here. Remember our triangles here at 12,000, right? Or 12,222. Okay, now with this plane selected, I'm going to click here, put an array modifier on it, click the count, change this to 10, press enter. I'm then going to click copy, scroll down, click here, press 0, then press enter, then click here, press 1, then press enter. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I'm going to bring this plane up. Trying to make it level about there. Push it over some. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Back here some. Okay, you see our polygon count. This is where it gets interesting. I'm going to click here. I'm going to hold Shift, then I'm going to click here. I'm then going to press and hold Control. Then while holding Control, press P. This brings up our Set Parent To menu. I'm then going to select Object. Okay, with that done and with our plane selected, we're going to click here, go back to Edit mode. We want to make sure that this plane is about the same size as our city piece. So I'm going to press S to scale. That's the scale again. I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse button to pan. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. And press that's the scale. I'm just matching it up here. Not a perfect match, but just pull it away some like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is click here, then go to object mode. Hover my mouse here and just give us a little bit more space. I'm going to click here, hold, roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Now I'm holding control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis for this light. And then I'm going to press S to scale to make this bigger. Press S to scale and pull the mouse a little bit more. I'm going to hold control, then hold the middle mouse button to zoom back some. I'm just going to lift this up a little bit higher. Okay, now what I'm going to do is select the plane, click here, scroll down to where it says duplication, and then I'm going to select faces. Okay, and as you can probably see here, I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. Holding shift and middle mouse button to pan. You can see all of this geometry here. I'll hold control and the middle mouse button to pan back a little bit more. Hold shift and middle mouse button to pan to the side. This is the interesting part I was telling you about. See the triangles? 12,420. And look at all this geometry here. So that is very cool. As a matter of fact, let me hover here, then I'll left click, then pull to the side some here. Okay, I'm holding shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, I'm holding control and the middle mouse button to pan back. Holding shift and middle mouse button to pan over again. Okay, I'm going to hover here, then press and hold shift and press Z to come out of preview mode just so I can show you more of this geometry here. Okay, now I'm going to press and hold shift and press Z. With this light selected, I'm just going to press S to scale, make this bigger so it emits more light. Okay, and we have all of this geometry with 12,420 triangles, which is I think it's pretty amazing considering that with the regular array it was over 1 million triangles. Okay, and you could always put more things. Even though this is its own object, you could take other objects, like suppose you wanted to put signs up, like business signs. You could take those objects and use this base to incorporate those other objects in. Yeah, I've seen previous ways of making cities. I thought that this way was pretty straightforward. I had figured out how to do this last night. I also thought it was pretty cool as far as the amount of polygons that you could, get this effect done with. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel and reshare them, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And to those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe. Also, if you look to your upper right hand corner, I have a support button where you can give a donation of any amount. Any amount that you would like to give would be extremely appreciated. It just helps with motivation as far as making tutorials. And it also makes it easier to be able to make new tutorials. And as always, guys, Thanks for viewing.